Welcome back. This is the second half of the morning review on KTT4 this morning. Of course, we're looking at the current economic climate in studio, joined by George Mboro. He's a Mizizi Africa Homes Limited CEO. We also have Reginald Kazutu, an economist as well. Also joined by Kamau Ngugi. He's the CEO of the Defenders Coalition. As we try and make sense of the economics of the day, but also how the politics is affecting the economics as well. Kamau, before we went to the break, had been talking about how we have a lot of sloganeering, which is typical to politics, and how at times that doesn't usually translate to how this will be executed once whoever it is gets into power. Let's talk about the current slogan that has done quite the rounds and just try and help us understand what essentially it would mean if they got in, Reggie. Bottom-up economics. It's been bandied around for quite a while. Everybody's talking about bottom-up. They've made a joke and called it bottoms-up. What exactly would this mean economically if they were to actually get into power?
Before I answer that, sloganeering is normally there worldwide. The only issue is that we never follow up when they come into power that you say this. There is no review mechanism. You find when people go to the next round of elections, they come up with a new slogan, but no one ever asks them, but you said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the last election. What have you done? Ideally, the State of the Nation addresses by the President in Parliament are supposed to actually be showing what effort is making towards that. But as soon as someone comes in, we all forget what they said. We all move on back to business as usual. So it's something that, as citizens, we need to change, where we hold politicians to account. This is what you promised when you are campaigning. And we also need to interrogate the promises, like what you're saying. When it comes to bottoms up or bottom-up economic theory or philosophy that is going around, where they're saying that we need to grow the economy from the bottom going up, meaning that we need to empower people at the bottom going up. It's there are times, especially when it's coming from politicians, you need to determine between political rhetoric and economic conmanship. Because when you look at the structure of the Kenyan economy, and someone says they will do a bottom up, it begs to ask, how are you actually going to do that? If you look at some of the statistics in the country, for example, 70% of everyone in this country stays in rural areas. It's literally in rural areas. And if that bottom-up does not touch on increasing the incomes of the agricultural sector, and increasing income, not handouts, because the way it is being portrayed, it's more of a handout kind of economic policy, where you're giving subsidies and all that. The problem that Kenya has is a problem of income. Yeah, because a handout is not sustainable, because for the government to give any amount of money to anyone, they need to have earned that money. And the government only earns money in two ways, through taxes and through borrowing. Yeah? So if you look at that angle of the Kenyan economy, you realize, okay, we have an income problem. People don't have incomes. If you look at the standard on page 22, where they are talking of a 90 kg bag of potatoes costs the same as 2 plates of chips. Yeah? A bag of potatoes is 500, 2 plates of chips in Nairobi, you'll pay 500 shillings. There's a problem there. That means the farmer is doing a lot of work, but he's not getting any income for his work. The person who's picked the potatoes has only been paid 50 shillings. How do we increase the income for the workers in a way to grow the economy? Then you go to the second structure of the Kenyan economy, which is predominantly informal. Yeah? By informal, I mean these guys are not formalized in terms of they don't pay direct taxes, in terms of corporate tax, PAYE, and all that. So if you go and you say you want to build the economy bottom up, yeah, so you pump money to these people, but these people don't pay any direct taxes. So this is money that you have pumped, hoping that they will spend it on the top. They spend it on the formal economy, which some are calling dynasties or big business. So you're trying to give these people money to go buy bread, so that the big guy who bakes bread makes money to be able to pay taxes. So if you look at the informality of the Kenyan economy, you realize that pumping money at the bottom might not be an answer, because one is not sustainable. You want these people at the bottom if they are even at the bottom in the first place, is to get them to generate income, whether through running businesses or through getting jobs. How do we expand employment, or how do we create an environment that Jeff can decide, I want to start a business? And this business has to be a business that starts and graduates. We cannot have businesses that remain as MSMEs for 20, 30 years. Then that's stagnation. Yeah? When you give a Mamamboga money, or a guy from Mkokoteni, empower him to do his Mkokoteni business, he has not employed anyone. Yeah? So he remains as one person. You still have a huge bunch of people who are not employed, and everyone cannot run a Mkokoteni business, or a salon business by yourself, making people's hair. So you need to look at an economic policy that says, where do we invest the most money, which creates the most number of jobs? Because then if I invest in an SME that is currently maybe employing 10 people or 50 people, and that person's capacity increases and is now able to employ 1,000 people, you have 900 people now that have incomes. That person at the bottom you want to help, the Mamamboga, has 900 new customers to buy her hamburger. So it is a more sustainable model. So if you look at the structure of the Kenyan economy, and you hear the principles of the bottom-up economy, you actually wonder whether it is a principle that would work for Kenya, so to speak. It's a bit of a copying, because it's not something new that these guys have come up with. Joe Biden's campaign was, we want to grow the economy middle out. Yeah? Sometimes he mentions bottom up, but all his policies are on middle out. Why? Because he's saying, okay, if we can get families to spend more money, yeah, so that's why he has the family plan. Biden's middle out is infrastructure. Yeah, he has a huge, close to 2 trillion infrastructure bill. He has close to another 1.8 trillion family bill. Then he has a jobs bill for around 600 billion. Yeah. Again, they are numbers. You're seeing how he's going to borrow to do it, obviously, because they don't have money to do it. But his middle out is, let's develop infrastructure so that the top can be able to expand, employ more people. As we develop the infrastructure, we are getting more people into jobs so that these people can get an income. His jobs plan is, how do we get more people, how do we get more SMEs to employ more people? That's middle out kind of thing that he's doing. But if you see where the money is spent, it is not money being given to people. Here's $3,000 or whatever. They did that during COVID to sustain demand in the economy. So if we are going to come to Kenya and say we want to do a bottom up, and we are saying if you look at the structure of the economy, a bottom up will actually not be a proper solution to the Kenyan problem. Okay. So I think the people that are propagating bottom up, the idea is, okay, there's an inequality in terms of wealth in the country. There are poor people, then there are ultra rich. And their desire, I think, is to try and to bridge that gap. But I don't think with the structure of the Kenyan economy, bottom-up economic principles will actually be able to achieve what they want to achieve.
Okay. George, from where you stand and you look at the current economic climate, for you as a business person, how is it operating? Because we had some business people talk about how the fact a couple of years back, for example, access to credit, it wasn't an issue. You'd have banks tripping over themselves to give you loans. Right now, getting the same facility is quite a task due to many factors. The employment issue also as well. Look at the number of people you probably were employing a couple of years back and look at it now. Of course, COVID having been a key issue as well, but there's a clear difference. How is it from where you stand as an entrepreneur in the Kenyan economy right now?
Yeah, thank you very much. And you have very well put that the climate of the business climate. And that is actually what we need as a country. We need a conducive business working environment so that we can be able to grow our economy. And also, as you have said, loans is a key issue when it comes to businesses, because businesses need cash flow. And at times when there is no cash flow, people need to run to the banks and get loans. But it is becoming difficult because also the banks also need to protect themselves. When a bank is giving out a loan, it needs to look at the risk. How possible are you able to repay the money I've given? Because ideally that money is not for the bank. That is money that has been put there by another person, which they may come back, they may come and ask for that money. So they need also to balance. So generally what we need for everybody, for the banks, for the business people, and for everybody is a conducive working environment. And I'm happy because our country is a country that is peace-loving, and our country, most of our people, we love peace generally. Only that after 5 years, we normally see we have some post-election violence and what have you. But if we can continue encouraging ourselves as Kenyans and also encouraging our leaders to ensure that we have a very conducive environment, regardless of whether we are nearing an election. And also I can encourage, especially at this time, we are saying the president is not coming back to seek for an elective post. And actually, if I can be in a position to encourage him, I would encourage him, this is the right time to create a conducive business environment and to create, let's say, a blueprint like we have Vision 2030. He can come up with a Vision 2050, because this time, at least, he's very much respected by from the political divines, both of them, or from all angles. We come up with a very good blueprint for our economy, not only now to 2030, now we look at 2050, because what we need to look at is the future generation. Yes, everybody, we are growing old, some are aged, they are very aged, they are nearing, they have already done their part, but we also need to look at the future. We have young children who are looking up to us as the policy makers. They are looking up to us as the people who are now feeding them, like the parents. They need also to know that their future is well protected and it will be bright. So what I can encourage is that climate. It needs to be very conducive, and this period that we have before we move to the 2022, this is the time that we need to take advantage and come up with a policy that will ensure that our future there's something that we are looking up to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kamau, I'll bring you in back again in the conversation, because before the break, you'd spoken about how even as citizens, we need to be more vigilant. As they speak about the various slogans that they give, we need to be more vigilant and interrogate this. Practically, how do we do that? How do we make sure we hold them to account? Once they promise us bottom-up economics and they do get in, or they don't, the next person who comes in, how do we hold them to account as citizens?
Yeah, you're very right. And that, of course, around this time, we're going to listen to different language of how to improve on the economy. And I think we're talking about the bottom-up approach. And I think let's be honest and be broad in terms of what conversation we should be having. It's about how do we get the people of Kenya from the point where they can't put food on the table. There are several ways. You don't have to talk big words about bottom-up and everything. Okay, one, and my other speakers have said, we need to recognize that taxes are the engine that drives any economy. At this point, we are constrained in terms of the number of people that pay taxes. Mostly, these are people who are employed. So we need to broaden the tax base so that the government is able to access resources that can help engage in development. Now, among the people that we need to go for would be people that are in various forms of economic, engaging in different economic activities. But at this point, the people have no resources, they have no money. So we have, first of all, to broaden the markets, because Kenya is agriculture-driven economy. Let's broaden the market, and therefore people are able to sell their own stuff. Number two, let's reduce the cost of production, both for industries and for farmers, so that whatever they produce, then they're able to gain some income. Let's make it easy to register our businesses and to run businesses, because at this point, anyone who tries to register a company and even to run it, it's extremely difficult. Number four, we have a strong, we are lucky we have a youthful population. And the youthful population, at this point, we have been investing a lot in their human resource, their skills building. I get sad when I hear that we are trying to increase the cost of education when we should be reducing it. So any government should invest that so that people can access the basic skills at both secondary and tertiary level, so that we can start exporting our human resource. I think we should never shy away or discourage people from supplying the whole of our East African region with manpower and woman power, so that then resources will trickle down to our country. And the other thing we need to encourage people to do is to diversify in terms of the various forms of, if in agriculture, please also try to diversify. This is all we call value additions. I think those are some basic things that we need to hear our politicians telling us how we're going to encourage the growth of a vibrant economy. But talking about policies that probably are just for the sake of exciting the public, doesn't help, because at the end of the day, we have a country that we need all of us to care about. I would wish to hear, and like my colleagues have mentioned, that we have a national economic recovery plan, and that can be implemented by whoever becomes the leader of this country. And when there's broad conversations around what that means, just like we were implementing the Vision 2030, that was not necessarily developed by the current government, but was developed years back. So we have such an economic recovery plan. It will mean that whoever comes in power will make a commitment towards walking that journey. But at this point, what I'm concerned is that we have been made to believe as citizens, as Kenyans, that any development that we receive is a favor. And therefore someone will be saying that, look here, I could have done this, but now this, give me a chance to do this. And I think that's a problem. I think there has to be deliberate, tangible things, 10-point plan. People can say, if you're a leader, this is what I will provide you. In the meantime, we hold them to account. That's why I believe we should have town hall conversation. We interrogate economic recovery plans for each of the upcoming leaders, so that you can build confidence both in the citizen and investors that would like to come to our country. Okay. And then above all, as a country, I think we have to provide some basic software. A country that is driven by rule of law, so that you know that if you're in business and someone is trying to cut corners, that they'll be held to account, so that all of us will be playing the same on the same level ground. That as citizen, you know that when you engage in an economic activity, or you have small, you're sure that it's safe and it is protected. You know that when you walk in the street, you're safe. And those are some of the basic infrastructures that give people confidence to invest. And then it helps us to operate in a way that gives us the encouragement that we shall have returns in the future, both for ourselves and for our children. So, and again, of course, it goes back to, and I insist, it goes back to the citizen on the kind of leaders they're going to choose. Because if people will just run to the polls and ask who is my member of my community, my ethnic community, and just give them the vote, and forget that at the bottom, at the end of the day, once the polls are closed, you'll have to take your own children to school. You're going to worry about the health of their children, then you'll be the loser. So at this point, I really encourage citizens to think so much about the expectations. It should be what the leader gives you or provides for you to be able to deal with your work. But it's nothing to do with what I'm hearing some leaders talking about, giving people tokens. Kenyans are not lazy. Kenyans don't need tokens to survive. People need a conducive environment and opportunities to provide for their families.
Okay, let me bring this conversation to studio as well, come out on this as we move it forward, because we are running out of time on this, so we need to bring it back to studio. We have 3 minutes before we bring this conversation to a close. So I want a parting shot as I go around the table on this. And Reggie, for you, even as you decide your parting shot, there's something you've mentioned there, and I'd like you to briefly explain, because if the United States is using infrastructure as a ticket to catalyzing the economy in terms of activity and generating that growth, we can see a lot of infrastructure happening in Kenya as well, why aren't we reaping those dividends in terms of what they're trying to achieve on our front as well? Very quickly, as we...
It is targeted infrastructure. It's not infrastructure for the sake of infrastructure. We've built an expressway. What are we trying to fix with that expressway? I'll give an example. When Trump was there and he was trying to do the pipeline from Canada to the US, the agenda was to reduce the cost of transporting fuel and therefore reducing the cost of energy in the US. So there has to be a reason. I've mentioned it before, some of the infrastructure that we put in this place is treating economic symptoms, not economic problems. Congestion in Nairobi is because we have killed the rural economy and we have failed to urbanize the rural economy so that people don't need to live where they stay in the rural areas to come to Nairobi, because right now Nairobi is the only place you can try to get a piece of job, some decent living. That has also created a housing crisis. Now they're trying to build affordable housing. Again, I'm thinking we are spending a lot of money in what we should be focusing to say, let's have a 10-year plan where we urbanize some of our rural areas that will reduce pressure on Nairobi. As a parting shot, even as people are making decisions on 2022 with the various economic policies that are going around, what we need to keep in mind always is the structure of the Kenyan economy. That number one, it's very informal. Number two, you have 1.5 million registered MSMEs and 5.8 million unregistered MSMEs. I believe that the future of Kenya will be how do we get these SMEs, one, to graduate, to be bigger companies, to be in an environment where they're able to grow and expand so that they can absorb people that are coming looking for income, because we have an income problem. Just a small statistic is you have 10-point-something million people in primary school right now of the 47 million people in the country. You have another 4 million or so in secondary. That means in the next 5-6 years, you're going to have close to 14 million people who are going to need employment, who are going to need income. They can all not be mikokoteni, pushers, or all those other things. They need proper income. So we have a 5-year period or 10-year period where we can actually make sure that if we invest in the right areas, especially in the MSME space, we will make sure that when these people come out of education, they have something to do where they can earn a decent income.
Okay. George, your parting shot very briefly.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we all agree that what we need to do is to have a conducive environment and to look at the future. And now this is the time to now sit all of us and start planning on what we need to do as a country. If you have a policy that you have on the table, it's good we have the whole picture. Let us not have just a snippet of maybe a small of it. Let's have the whole picture, because we have people who are very much educated here in the country, and they can be able to look at the plans and be able to look at the details, so that at the end of the day we make the right choices and we move our country to the right direction, because the future is looking up to us.
Okay.
Yeah, there are young people who are looking up to us, and it is our time now we stand up so that we do not destroy their future.
Okay. Kamau, 30 seconds as we bring it to a close. Very briefly, what's your parting shot this morning?
Yeah, we're going to an election, and as Kenyans, we have to protect our country. We have to be peaceful. We have to be our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. We can't afford to destroy our country, just because of election, which is an episode. So what I would encourage people right now is to think that, yes, of course, we need to identify our leaders, but it must be the kind of leaders that are going to promote harmony, that are going to give hope and to build the economy. But we have a duty as citizens, love each other. We can't afford to go into conflict just because of an election. We have to save this country, we have to protect each other, and we have to start with each other. Thank you very much. Okay,
that's how we wind it up as far as this conversation is concerned. It does continue online. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Many thanks, George Mboro, Mrs. Africa Homes Limited, for being with us. Reginald Kazutu, our resident economist. I can see the pessimism a bit waning, just a bit, not too much, just a bit. We also have Kamau Ngugi. He's the CEO of the Defenders Coalition. Many thanks for being on the show this morning. We took a short break. We're back on the other side as we get interactive. We also have special live coverage this morning all the way from the Serena Hotel as we talk about matters, careers. You need to be part of that conversation happening right here on KT4 this morning. Short break, back with more.